Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back. And what are we getting into? Of course it's the Ultimatum Marry or Move On season 3. I am on episode 4 called Ghosted. Right, before we get into this video, I do have a few things to say to you. So I'll be doing this video and it may be a while, about 2 weeks, before I do any more videos or upload any more videos in regards to the Ultimatum and in regards to Arcane. Reason being is I am going to be abroad for 2 weeks, so I won't have access to the stuff that I use in order to do my videos with you. What I will do though is bring you along on my vacay. Okay, my renegades, I will be bringing you along on my vacay, because I will make a little vlog. If that's what you want, if that's what you'd like to see, then please let me know in the comments. It's going to be a bit of a surprise of where it is that I'm going. There's probably only a select few of my renegades that will know where it is that I am going as of from tomorrow for 2 whole weeks. But it's going to be a little bit of a surprise, and then I will show you as the time goes on how I'm getting on there. But I will be back by the 11th of January and I'll restart all my videos on these again. Okay, so please bear with me during that time. Anyway, let's jump straight back into this. As I always ask, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so we know I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share and do all the good things that you do, because you all know I am on the road to 1k. So now we come fully into episode 4, and my god, I told you these people's audacity held no bounds. Okay, so we're back. Everyone right now seems to be doing their own thing. You have Caleb and Arya playing Jenga, and I will say again that I do like these two together. I really do. I do hope they end up with each other once I get to the ultimate ending of this season 3 of the Ultimatum. I kind of hope that Arya will make the decision to not have anything to do with Scotty, and hopefully either go off by herself or Caleb and her can make it work. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, you see that Caleb and Arya, for me, are trying to be a couple. They're trying to learn things from each other, and they're not really playing at it like the others are. They're actually building a friendship which can start and lead into something else, because the best relationships, as they always say, starts from friendship first. Because you got Dave worrying about Vanessa, you've got Chanel worrying about Micah, you've got Nick worrying about Sandy, you got Micah be worrying about Chanel. Everybody seems to, in those people that I've talked about, seems to be getting on with it, but in a singular type of phase. Like when you see in the beginning episodes of this show, you see each one of them, like Dave, Chanel, Micah, Vanessa, all doing their own little thing. They're not necessarily with the people that they came in with. And I knew why. I absolutely knew why after a while. So Zaina, you see Zaina and Scotty, and they're supposedly being quite playful with it. And Zaina really said to Scotty, you haven't made it official yet, you need to put a ring on it. And all I'm going to say is, even in jest, that was kind of bad taste, to be honest with you, because it could be taken any which way you feel like you want to take that. Do you know what I mean? So Scotty's reply to her was, where was my band? And she says it's in the mail from Amazon. I was like, yeah, these two sincerely are going to do my head in throughout the whole of this season. Like, seriously, they will. But I think Scotty's going to do my head in more than Zaina will at the end of the day. So we go to Sandy and JR. So basically Sandy is now explaining the situation that Nick brought up to Vanessa in regards to him running into Sandy at the Starbucks, and Sandy then proceeding to tell him that, you know, she's kissed JR. And I was thinking there's got to be a lot more to it than that. She didn't just full out come out and tell this man something. So I don't think it was a coincidence that Sandy and Nick ran into each other. Well, more so from Nick's side, because I think Nick would know what the routine is of Sandy is basically. So he would know exactly what time she would literally get up to go get a cup of coffee, because she probably can't start her day without a cup of coffee. So automatically he would be there. He would run into her there. I don't think it was a coincidence, but hey ho, have no evidence to prove otherwise, but we shall continue. So basically, Nick confided in Sandy that, you know, he is really and in particular upset that JR and Sandy chose each other. And this is why I said there's more to the story than what Nick was trying to give to Vanessa at the end of the day, in terms of how Nick was trying to come off playing the victim in regards to him finding out, yes, it was what can I say? Yes, it was bad information. It weren't nice information to know that, you know, the person that you love has kissed somebody else. Of course you're going to be upset by that. But how Nick was playing it was, for me, it was dramatic and overboard at the end of the day. He wanted that hard done by story. He wanted the sympathy. That's what he was playing at. So Sandy said she's never seen this side of Nick ever. I myself would probably call bullshit on that. I think she probably has seen that side of Nick, but she hasn't paid it much attention while they've been together at the end of the day. It's now that they're not together and she's with somebody else that she is now seeing this side of Nick play out to the forefront. But I think she's seen it previously but paid it no mind. Basically, what it sounded like is Nick boxed Sandy into a corner until she bit back. So it was Nick that asked the ultimate question of Sandy, like if she kissed JR. Because I was like, where else would he get the information from? She'd have to have told it anyway. So when she goes back into the room and she's speaking to JR asks Sandy if she wants to like talk about it. So she was like, okay then, this is what it is. So whatever went down at that coffee shop was not good and it weren't a great outcome. Sandy does end up telling JR what happened, and the fact that she ended up saying to Nick, because he asked her point blank, have you kissed JR? She said she didn't want to lie about it, which was kudos to her at the end of the day. So it wouldn't come up in any other way, shape or form. She thought the best way she could be is truthful, and it's what she did. She told him yes. Why did JR not look like pleased? JR did not look pleased by her giving that information to Nick in the slightest. And I'm just kind of like, at the end of the day, when it comes to a show like this, you need to literally tell the truth, because guaranteed that shit will definitely come out in the wash. Let's just put it that way. So she hadn't planned to tell Nick at the end of the day. But basically what had happened was he'd boxed her, as I said, into that corner to the point where she literally had to tell the truth. But JR was looking at Sandy as though he wanted this girl to lie. JR was sitting there quiet, you know, quiet as this girl was chatting and saying what this man had done to her outside of the coffee shop. Yeah, you could see that Sandy was so upset by the situation. A, he did not validate her in any way, shape or form, that I believe. And B, he didn't even comfort the girl, do you know what I mean? Or say, let her know, you know, it's okay. At the end of the day, you told the truth, and like be happy that that truth has come out. No, my man sat there like he was planning what the fuck he was going to do in terms of his own damage control when Zaina found out, in terms of him and Sandy locking lips with each other at the end of the day. So I didn't get him. I didn't get JR at that point at the end of the day. So JR turned around and said, oh yeah, well this will cause a shitstorm for sure. I'm like, is that all you had to say about it, my friend? Like, seriously, is that all he had to say about the situation at hand in regards to how Sandy had been treated by Nick, I'll say her ex, and the fact that she literally was railroaded into telling this man the truth because she didn't want to lie about it? All I can say is, yeah, is JR's body language is very, very, very much telling, yeah. His body language is saying what his mouth is not going to say. So Sandy is basically spilling about, you know, her and Nick had been arguing a lot before the ultimatum, basically. And before the ultimatum, Sandy wanted to unpack all this angst and this situation and this conflict that was going on with Nick. But he would not give her the time of day in order to discuss it. But now it's like they've gone into this show, and it's like now he wants to give her the time of day. Now he wants to speak to her about situations when he can't actually do it. For me, I think the way that Sandy was speaking, she was just having, like, she was offloading. It was constant verbal diarrhea at the end of the day. I think she was trying to fill that void and that silence that JR was giving her, because JR weren't doing shit at this point. He might have been involved in the fucking mannequin challenge for the lump of good that he was doing for her at the end of the day. So you see Sandy talk about how Nick is now literally harassing her because he's been calling her non-stop. When she's answered the calls, he will blow up at her. So then when she's trying to talk, he will then hang up and then ring her back and do it all over again. So she's taken to the point where, you know what, I'm not going to get involved with this no more. I'm not going to answer your calls. And since she's stopped answering the calls, so she's gone ghost on this man, people. That's the title. So she's gone ghost on this man. He will not stop bothering her. And this is why I said there's something about Nick that I couldn't put my finger on, yeah? That was saying he ain't righted. Nick is not righted. Nick, I lump with Scotty. Yeah, and JR's coming in a close third with these two, with how he's behaving right now, because he is not helping the situation. He's just letting this girl like chat because he won't say anything at the end of the day. So Sandy is basically turning around and starts to give Nick excuses in regards to his piss poor behaviour about the situation. So Sandy is basically saying that she gets that he's emotional. She gets that this will be par for the course in regards to what's happening here at the end of the day. And I was like, no, my love. Nick is literally playing with Sandy, making sure she does not get a moment's peace. And because he is unhappy with what he heard and how it's made him feel, instead of him dealing with that appropriately, he's literally putting all his bullshit onto this woman. Like, seriously. Yes, anybody's going to be unhappy with knowing that, you know, things have moved on with another person outside of your realm, outside of your control, with your said partner. But at the end of the day, Nick doesn't have the permission to do what he's doing to Sandy, in bombarding her with calls, in going off at her when she answers the phone and hanging up and then restarting it again. And now she's trying to get a moment's peace from him because of his behaviour. He continues to keep going. Says, yeah, nah. That's when a person starts to roll into abuse territory for me at the end of the day. There always are going to be little signs and symptoms and patterns of behaviours, of the beginnings of the traits of abusive behaviour. And Nick is doing one of them right now. He's seriously doing one of them right now. And Sandy's just fell back into that realm of making excuses for Nick's piss poor behaviour. At this point, JR's still not said a word, you know. JR's still not said not a one bit of a bean. I don't know if he's rethinking his whole choice pick right now with Sandy, or, you know, he, as I said, he's doing damage control in his head. So JR now speaks and says to Sandy that basically it's not fair on her. Talked about, you know, Zaina being with Scott, and I'm just kind of like, but my guy, that's not even in the same realm as what Sandy and JR are at the end of the day with Scotty and Zaina, because at the end of the day, JR's gonna that little bit further, and so is Sandy, in terms of emotionally connecting with someone to the point of physical intimacy. They may not have gone the whole hog yet, but it's not far off the cards at the end of the day. That's how I'm seeing it. So it's a completely different kettle of fish, so he can't compare apples to oranges at the end of the day. Yeah, they ain't looking good. Ain't looking good for Sandy and Nick, let's just put it that way. So JR does ask Sandy basically what would happen if she ignored Nick. Dude, did you not listen to a word she was saying? She's already been ignoring this man, and he just keeps calling her and calling her and calling her at the end of the day. So each time Sandy does not answer that call, the behaviours in Nick will continue to escalate. Nick himself won't see that he's doing anything wrong because he feels justified in what he's doing to Sandy right now. So then it comes to the night time, and you see Nick coming home basically to the flats, and Nick walks to the door of Vanessa and knocks on the door, and then all you hear him open the door and say, "Oh, what the fuck's going on?" And I'm like, okay, what the fuck has happened here? Like, seriously, I thought, is she asleep and he's just walked into the room like that? And Nick don't rightfully care because he wants to be able to offload onto her. I don't know. So then we get to Mariah and Micah. And I'm like, okay, because we ain't seen this dude since he disappeared out of the flat in the last episode, yeah. So you see Mariah walking through the home and Micah's basically not come back at all. So what we then find out is Micah had packed and left. I was like, that's piss poor behaviour at the end of the day, because that's unfair to Mariah, because he could have at least come back and spoke to her about the situation that he was going through and the decisions that he was going to make, rather than pack his shit and leave, and then Mariah come back and find nobody in the flat and all his stuff is gone. One word I would call it is coward. He's an absolute coward, yeah, because he didn't stop to think about his own selfish needs, yeah, and think about the fact that, you know what, in him doing that, he's going to make Mariah believe that it had something to do with her when it didn't. So we end up zipping to Nick, and basically he's alone too. Vanessa's gone. Vanessa's not come back home. So it was at that point that it kind of clicked in my head. I thought, hold the fucking phone. So has Dave and Chanel concocted a plan with Micah for all of them, including Vanessa, to leave? Is that what they've done? So let's continue. Yeah, let's continue. So Vanessa packed all her things and left too. She didn't say boo to a goose, and said nothing to Nick. It's like they swooped in quickly of a night time when everybody was out, packed their shit and left. That's piss poor behaviour, like seriously piss poor behaviour, especially on Vanessa's part, when she was sitting there, in terms of how she was connecting with Nick, how she felt about Nick, how she was happy to go through this whole situation with Nick, how she literally stopped Dave from having these anxious feelings in regards to the experiment itself, and saying she was not going to leave early when Dave wanted her to leave at the point before the choices were made. But no, she went ahead and she made her choice, yeah, and then still decided to fucking dip. Again, coward. This is the first time that this has ever happened in an ultimatum, yeah, that four couples? No, three couples. Is it 4 couples or 3 couples? No, 2 couples. Dave and Vanessa, Micah and Chanel have left. So what happens to Mariah and Nick at this point in time? I do not know. So what you then see is Dave, Vanessa, Micah and Chanel had basically all met in secret off camera, and then the only time the footage caught them was when they all went back to their flats to all pack at the same time. I thought that was a savage fucking move on their part, like savage. I understand with Dave, because he was literally sincerely struggling at the end of the day, and I think he more than likely realised what he had in Vanessa, and more than likely, to get Vanessa to leave, gave her promises, yeah, that she's hoping he can keep right about now. Gave her promises that he wanted to leave and get married to her, get engaged, all this, that and the other, wanted to give her exactly what she wanted, but they needed to leave. That's the only way he would have got that woman to leave that place, because he wasn't getting her to leave for love nor money previously at the end of the day. So with Micah, he definitely felt a gap away from Chanel when he was with Mariah, because him and Mariah were not on that plane. They definitely weren't, not with each other at the end of the day. But I just hope that Micah's able to give Chanel what it is that she wants, because at the end of the day, she doesn't want to be seeking to be wifey for lifey without no wedding ring on her finger. And I think that's essentially what Micah's going to keep on giving her, and that's what Chanel's going to continue to accept. So Nick is talking about, you know, how he had this great connection with Vanessa, and that he believed that they tapped into something that she didn't have with Dave. I will concur with Nick at the end of the day. Let's just put it that way. And Nick said that he believed that Dave was afraid, and he saw it at the table, and like he did. Dave was afraid. He was literally afraid that he was going to lose his woman to Nick, and he didn't want that to happen. So he was literally going to jump into the affray and make sure that he would make this woman leave come hell or high water, because I think the plan first probably started with Micah and Chanel. So when Micah and Chanel were texting each other back and forth, and then Chanel left to go meet Micah, I think the plan hatched there. So I think it was down to Chanel to try and convince Dave to convince Vanessa to leave, because Chanel wanted to leave and go back with Micah at the end of the day. She didn't want to do it anymore. That's how I think that played out at the end of the day. So we have Nick and Mariah alone. I do feel for Mariah. And she really did want to get involved with the process. She really wanted to learn about herself. So in essence, not only were Micah and Vanessa selfish in what they did, they also made it a bad experience for Nick and for Mariah at the end of the day. With Dave and Chanel, they were not invested in any of this shit from the beginning at all, to be honest with you. Both of them were struggling, to be honest. So you see that the rest of the cast do get informed that Mariah and Nick are on their own. And then you see Caleb speaking about it in his VC, and that he felt bad that Micah had left Mariah alone. And I think reading between the lines in terms of what he was saying, Mariah doesn't cope very well on her own, basically, or being in her own space. So she may well feel some kind of way when she sees Caleb and Aria together at the end of the day. And this is what he was saying, like when him and Aria are laughing with each other and being genuine with each other, she may feel some kind of way about that, and that's when some problems may start to come to the forefront between them. He feels that it might impact on his experience with Aria, and as of right now, I do believe that that could potentially be true. But as I said, I haven't seen the rest of the episodes yet, and I will be. I don't know if it's a case of, like, if Mariah really can't be on her own, will she want her man back to make it right for her? And this is the thing with, I think, what Caleb was bringing up in regards to Mariah's codependency upon him, and he needs a partner that's quite independent of him in that sense. So then we go to Sandy, and basically Sandy is hella pissed that Vanessa left Nick alone, basically. And I agree with her. I would be pissed too at the end of the day, because what Vanessa and Micah did, and I'm going to put it on Vanessa and Micah, was piss poor behaviour. They were both cowards. They had no feelings for those that they'd left behind. Both of them were selfish in the end goal in terms of what it is that they wanted to do in regard to that plan at the end of the day. I ain't going to put too much stock on Dave and Chanel, because they didn't want to be there from the get-go, and they've expressed that so many times that they didn't want to be there from the get-go. But Vanessa and Micah were willing to play along in terms of the experiment itself, especially Vanessa. And this is why I said they could have done this shit before the choices. They could have done this shit before they moved in with somebody else, and then tried to see how they would navigate that space with someone else. They could have done this before ruining the experiences of someone else, basically. So to me, it makes no sense that they signed up for the ultimatum. Like, you're telling me you've not watched any other single seasons of the ultimatum to know what it is that's going to be asked of you to do. So they just wasted people's time, to be fair, in freaking coming on the show, to be honest with you. I mean, to sneak out at the dead of night is literally coward behaviour, especially when you cannot open your mouth to speak to the people that you paired off with to say, look, this is where my feelings are at, this is what I'm planning to do, I just needed to give you the heads up on it. Couldn't even give them the heads up. Coward. That's all I can say is coward. Yeah. Basically, Sandy is talking about, like, you know, the fact that she's in a trial marriage with JR, and Nick is now by himself, and currently they are not talking. And basically she believes that it will be a recipe, well, I believe it will be a recipe for disaster for Mariah and for Nick if they're left on their own for too long and to their own devices, especially when it comes to Nick, because once he's by himself now, the only thing that he has is space and time to literally make his mind spin, to literally concoct little plans of what he's going to do to upset the apple cart with JR and Sandy. Let me put it that way, because the more his mind starts to wear with no outlet, the more Nick will get freaking paranoid by the minute about Sandy and JR. Let me just put it that way. And the next day, you see Mariah and Nick do meet up. And I thought, okay, it's the Dumpies coming together to talk about their experience and trauma bond with each other. Yay, exactly what you need, a bit of trauma bonding, do you know what I mean? So as it is, they're both bamboozled and confused, basically. And it's the fact that Mariah was saying that at that point in time, she was texting Micah about for asking him to pick up washing up liquid. And I was like, and again, she got no response from him, so it's crickets. And I keep saying piss poor behaviour and cowardly at the end of the day. And I hope once it gets to reunion that this little bit gets pulled apart for real, like seriously, that these people aren't made to feel comfortable in regards to the shit that they just pulled on these other two people at the end of the day. Nick turns around and says like he feels abandoned. I don't blame him in the slightest. He believes that Dave was the reason that Vanessa left, and he says he was sure that Dave was going to propose to Vanessa at the end of the day. And I think I believe that he gave her like what she wanted, or a promise of what she wanted, basically to get Vanessa to leave. Let's just put it this way, because at the end of the day, Vanessa got what she wanted, and that was to push her man into making the decision she wanted him to make in regards to them progressing to the next step in their relationship. And for me, that's all about manipulation. It's all about manipulation, because at the end of the day, she thought nothing about walking away from this other person that she says she formed an actual cold, close fucking relationship to. Do you know what I mean? So, as Nick is sitting there talking to Mariah, this man makes it all about him, not thinking about, like, you know, Mariah's been through the same fucking thing, mate. She's in the same boat as you. And he's just talking about his feelings at the end of the day. And then he says, like, this has really fucked me up. And Mariah says, yeah, it's fucked me up too. And Nick turns around to her and says, well, I don't see that. I'm just like, man, just because certain people don't wear their damn heart on their freaking sleeve 24/7 like the fuck Nick does, and over dramatize things in terms of their emotions, doesn't mean they're not feeling the hurt, the harm that was caused, and the disappointment. Doesn't mean that they're not feeling there. And this is why I say Nick is very self-centered. He's very self-centered because he just automatically believes that his feelings are valid, and he's hurting more because he's showing it, which he does for dramatic effect. That's how I see it. But because Mariah's not showing the same type of feelings that he seems to be showing, he doesn't think that it's hurting her in the slightest, or she's not bothered by it in the slightest, which is further from the freaking truth for Mariah at the end of the day. So we asked Mariah, are you ever a mess? And Mariah says, well, yes, I am. And she talks about how she's gotten to low points and feeling that she's not worth anything. And I says, again, Nick is basing all of this on his own perspective, how he believes a person should think and feel, or how they should behave in the exposure to hurt at the end of the day. I was just like, yeah. Mariah seems to be one of these people that even if she doesn't show her hurt outwardly, she's definitely hurting on the inside. And I think in that moment for me, Nick was being an absolute dickhead, to be honest with you, and just making it all about him. So Mariah does speak to him about how she was abandoned as a child, and she'd not seen her mum since she was 8 years old. So again, Mariah has taught herself how to hide her emotions and her deepest hurts at the end of the day. So I'm kind of like, well, yeah, Nick, don't judge a book by its cover at the end of the day. You don't know what another person is going through and how they deal with said situations when they are going through it. So why are you judging her by it at the end of the day? I would say at least Mariah showed some insight that she has been emotionally needy with Caleb, and basically wanted him to consistently make her feel lovable, when really she should find that in herself, to be honest with you. I kind of hope she's taking therapy for that, and therapy around how she can get, higher self-esteem, get better confidence, because there are times that she needs to validate herself rather than depending on the other person to do it for her. It's an opportunity now for Nick and Mariah to be by themselves and learn about themselves. And so it moves on to Nick talking in his VC about, like, you know, saying that he wants to marry Sandy, but they have to work on things. From what Sandy was saying, it sounded like they had to work on some big things, to be honest with you. But it's when Nick says, like, she's with JR or hooking up or whatever, I'm like, it's that right there. It's that right there that will continue to fuck Nick up again and again. At the end of the day, he has a fear JR, he's saying, will get to Sandy's heart. And I thought, nah, it's not. That's not the fear of Nick, to be fair. In my opinion, it's more so that he will get something else, is what he's worried about at the end of the day. I don't think Sandy's heart is coming into the equation for Nick, to be honest with you. And that's how I see it. So we get to the morning and you see Scotty and Zaina. Sometimes I wish Zaina would just stop with the whole wife shit situation, because the crap is getting old at the end of the day. I'm like, we get you want to be married because everyone around you is getting married, and you're 30 and you don't want to be left on the shelf, okay? Because at this part, I'm looking at it like, is this how hard this girl rides JR? With the wife thing when she's with him, like, seriously, because it's like every word out of her mouth has to do with being a wife in some way, shape or form when it comes to Scotty. You end up seeing Sandy and JR in the gym, you see Mariah and Nick in their own spaces, and then you see Caleb and Aria getting drinks together. And Aria gets Caleb to try her drink, and he says to her, like, do you think Scotty would approve of me using your spoon? I'm like, mate, Scotty been big spooning Zaina at the end of the day, so I don't even think that's going to be an issue right now. Do you know what I mean? So but then we go back to Scotty and Zaina, and you see them going for a little walk. Scotty asked Zaina what in that walk, if she had any doubts that they would be compatible in a trial marriage. Zaina jokes and says, well, yes, she had doubts, and right now she's in it, but she, you know, she just says JK, and I'm like, stop using fucking acronyms when you want to talk to someone. Say, I'm just joking. Just joking. Okay. Bloody hell. He talks about, like, you know, not living with someone before, and the fact that she has. And she talks about how easy it has been between the both of them, and that they have a level of comfortability to be themselves. Zaina's thinking about, you know, the possibility of already falling in love with two people at the same time. And I said, right here, the issue will be is if that happens, yeah, then Zaina's going to need to make a choice of who it is that she wants to go home with, or who she wants to pick at the end of the day. I'm going to put my hand up in the air and say at this moment in time, Zaina and Scotty bore the living shit out of me. I ain't going to lie about it or make no bones about it. So then we go to Aria and Caleb. And basically Aria is talking about how different Caleb is to Scotty, because he's calm. And to be honest with you, from what I've seen so far, I really don't have a bad word to say about Caleb at all. Caleb is mature, he's secure in who he is, and this is what Aria likes and sees about him, to be honest with you. I still think that Aria and Caleb will be better suited to each other, given that they understand each other better. So Caleb does have these worries in regards to Mariah, that she doesn't recognize who she is, basically. I don't know. I just think Caleb is seeing Aria as a breath of fresh air, to be honest with you. And you do see through this episode that their relationship starts to develop with each other. That, you know, he is beginning to have certain feelings for Aria, and I think Aria is beginning to have those certain feelings for him. But between them both, it's naturally developing. It isn't forced in any way, shape or form, because as I said, they started off as just friends. They're not even sleeping in the same bed together. They've not kissed each other. They've not been intimate with each other on that level at all. They are like literally just building stepping stones to get to know each other, and what it is that they believe may be missing with the other person, and if they could honestly find it with each other at the end of the day. That's how I'm seeing it. So Caleb talks to Aria about the fact that, you know, Mariah uses this term blind faith a lot, and me myself, the same as Aria, I was wondering, well, what does that mean? He says like Mariah has no reasoning as to why she feels that Caleb is it for her. I was like, yeah, I don't like that at all. I mean, it don't make no sense, because there must be a reason why you're so gung-ho about wanting to marry this person. There must be something that this person has that makes you want them to be your forever and all at the end of the day. So blind faith ain't going to work on that one at the end of the day, because you ain't going to go into it on blind faith. You're going to have considered a lot of things about that person before you even decide to brook the argument of you both wanting to get married at the end of the day. So Kylie did turn around and says, yeah, to him blind faith sounds scary. Not just scary, it's a little bit weird. It really is. So Sandy and JR are out with each other. They decide to do, it looks like bowling, but it's not, because it's a smaller ball and it looks like little skittles at the end of the day. So they do an activity together, and they end up putting in a little bet. So Sandy said if she wins, JR will cook for her. And if JR wins, he said Sandy needs to wear one of his shirts to bed with nothing else underneath it. I was like, raw. Rotted. Okay, you want to take it there? Like, seriously, you want to take it there? So they do their thing, yeah. He slaps Sandy on her ass. Like, seriously slaps on the other ass. And this is why I mean, I don't know what type of connection it is that them two think they're making, but all it is just speaking of sexual vibes. That's all it is. It ain't a deep and meaningful connection that I can see. All I can see is just bare flirt, banter around that bare flirt, and just proper I can't wait to rip your clothes off type of situation with them two. So they start to talk about their roles within the relationship, and Sandy is kind of thinking that, you know, things are ours, not just his and hers type of thing. And JR is the person that always has, even with Zaina, because that's how their relationship has been, that they think about each other in the singular, that they do things for themselves rather than for each other or as a couple at the end of the day. So Sandy shares that she wants to be that proverbial housewife where, you know, she does the washing or the laundry and this, that and the other. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, JR turned to Sandy and says, oh, he's never had that experience with Zaina. I thought, yeah, man, you haven't. Well, Scotty's getting that experience in tenfold, because all the things that she didn't do for you, JR, she's doing for Scotty. Let's just put it that way. All know as well, at the end of their day, Sandy does let it slip that, you know, Nick's continued to call and text her non-stop. I'm just like, from when this woman has gone ghost on you and she's not answering your calls, you need to give it a rotted rest at the end of the day, because Nick has become comfortable in doing what it is that he's doing, and I think he's done this behavior many times before, but because they're under a microscope, it's being shown a lot more and it's coming out a lot more, because Nick is not taking that time to self-reflect at all in terms of him being by himself and what it is he brings to himself when he's by himself at the end of the day. I think he's just literally trying to put a barrier in place between Sandy and JR, in terms of the constant texts and the calls, as a reminder to JR that he is there and he is not going away. Then we move to Zaina and Scotty again. And Zaina talks about like being in the West Coast, and Scotty wants, basically, if he was to have a family, he definitely want it to be a close-knit family in regards to that they would know their grandmother, their uncles, their aunts and everything like that. Zaina's talking about how she wants to freeze her eggs because she's at a certain age where, you know what, her biological clock is ticking, and she talks about how she wants her mum to wait. They're both basically saying that they don't want to be older parents. And again, them two just don't do it for me. Like, seriously, they don't. Scotty goes all psychological realm now and tells Zaina that he feels she uses humour to sidestep how she feels and uses it to mask her feelings as well. He says he feels that she has been with someone who has been slower to open up to her, so that's why she does the things that she does. And this is why I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, have you got a damn script? Like, seriously, and this is why I say, who says these things? Who talks in this way to a person that they're interested in? To be honest with you, you can get deeper meaningfuls with people, but you've got to have known them for over a period of time to be able to get that way. Don't sit there and psychoanalyze the fuck out of me. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what Scotty was doing, psychoanalyzing the fuck out of Zaina. And I'm like, you don't even know her that good. You don't know her that tough to do that shit. But all I'm going to say is Scotty is giving me Swear down, real ick vibes right about now. Like, he really is. He thinks so much of himself, and he believes that he is this sensitive and genuine person, yeah. But there are points that I've already seen about him that he showed to Arya, says how different he is in different situations, especially when it comes to the person that he's with and not trying to impress at the end of the day. So Zaina basically takes what he says genuinely and says, like, it takes the right person and the same right space to do that. And of course I knew this was going to come, because it leads Scotty into saying he feels he can be the right person for Zaina and they can find the right space. I'm sorry, I don't rightfully trust Scotty. I really don't. And I believe that these may have been the words that he said, tried, true and tested to Arya when he was getting her to open up. And then it's kind of like, well, what happens once that person has opened up and he's got them to show them their vulnerability? Will he smack it back in their face like he did with Arya at the table for the choice when they were picking the choices, or when he basically ignored how upset she was when he held Zaina's hand in front of her face and then tried to tell her that he didn't do that? He's doing way too much. He's doing too much. So Scotty thinks he and Arya are extremely compatible, and he thinks Zaina and him are extremely compatible. And I was like, here the fuck we go. Scotty basically says if he does not leave there engaged, he doesn't want to think about the possibility of someone not thinking he's good enough for them. And I thought, way to put a little message out there, do you know what I mean? And for me, it doesn't mean that you are not good enough for that person if a person says no to an engagement at the end of the day. It just simply means that you are not right for them at that point in time, or it is not the right time for them. I think Scotty is trying to set up a scenario where if Arya says no to him, then he has the backup of Zaina. Basically, that's what I'm thinking he's trying to think through. As I said, I don't trust him at the end of the day, and he's writing a plan B as we speak. So we wing over to Arya and Caleb, and you see that Caleb picks up the laptop and he goes over to the sofa to say that he needs to work. So Arya goes over and sits next to him, and Arya brings up the fact that, you know what, to him, are you the type of person who needs to get the last word in? And I'm like, if you've seen anything of Caleb and knowing about him as time has gone on, I don't think that's the type of person that Caleb is at the end of the day. He's the type of person who's quite quiet and will listen to what's being said to him before he responds. He also can leave it there and not have to say anything more, because his silence will speak volumes. He doesn't have to get the last word in at the end of the day. But as Arya said, Scotty doesn't. It pisses her off no end, yeah. And this is what I mean about people that do that. They feel that their voice is more important than the other person that they're talking to, yeah. And it's a way as well in which to continue the discourse that's more than likely happening between the both of them, making sure that they've won out. So if they get the last word in, they've won. And I think that's how Scotty sees it at the end of the day. And for me, it's pathetic and childish behaviour. And to be honest, it doesn't surprise me that Scotty does carry on in the way that he does when he's with Arya, when he does that, to be honest. So Scotty just turns around, Caleb does turn around and say, you know, that at least Scotty is passionate. And I'm like, yeah, nah, like, there's passionate and there's passionate. And Scotty's just being a dick when he wants to be a dick at the end of the day. Arya says that she wants Scotty to feel appreciated by her, and she believes that's something that he may be lacking, but it gets lost in translation long distance, because basically she's saying that when he does things for her and she does acknowledge it, that he's done it, and says thank you, but he wants to take it that extra mile because he wants to feel fully appreciated for what it is that he's fucking done. He wants that proverbial pat on the back and the whole song and dance about it. And what Caleb said was true. Basically, Scotty should not be counting on Arya to make him feel like he's doing the right thing at the end of the day. And this is what I mean. This is what Scotty does. He wants to be validated in the behaviours that he does and the things that he says consistently, yeah, and not really give anything back. Like, seriously, he wants that high praise for literally doing the bare fucking minimum. So Caleb does speak about Mariah and in terms of their love and in regards to how Mariah is so pure. But when Caleb speaks about Mariah, you do see a little light kind of switch on, and I think this in turn is the worry for Arya. Like, you know, now that he knows Mariah's on her own, he may not fully engage with the process, but that's not what's the impression that he's given. He's actually fully invested in what's going on at the moment. He does talk about her blind faith that she has at 24 years old and the confidence she has in what she wants and how she wants it. And he does talk about the fact that it does scare him being faced with someone, as he described Mariah to be, can be scary in someone as young as Mariah, to be honest with you. I mean, to be fair, in her experiences, she didn't have the parents that she needed to show her how she should have been confident in her own abilities and not place that on others, to make her have a tendency to literally, I think, smother people in relationships. And I think that's what she's doing with Caleb. She's literally smothering him, because Caleb talks about that, you know, she has this mother to child type of love, which doesn't always work in certain sets of relationships and with certain people at the end of the day. Caleb does talk about the fact that he feels that he can talk to Arya without any judgment and she doesn't judge him. He says that their friendship is getting closer and they have a comfortability with each other and he likes it. That's what I'm saying, they need to be together. They need to be together. So we go to Mariah and she's basically talking about in her VC that it's burdensome in ways due to putting an ultimatum on Caleb, and she talks about how much she loves Caleb and she wants him, and that's the essence of what scares Caleb basically. But how can she now say that why she but she can't say why she wants him so much, why she believes that they need to be together. As I think right now Caleb is running scared. He's not ready at all, but I don't think Mariah is ready to hear that, and that's why she's issued him with this ultimatum. Mariah feels that her and Caleb's relationship was not working on an emotional level, and this is why I'm saying, well, why give him an ultimatum if you know that your relationship is not working on that level? I'm honestly confused by that one. She basically, within this experience, wants Caleb to get the answers he needs, but then she also wants clarity for herself. But I'm kind of like, well, how will she gain clarity on what it is that she wants? As I'm confused by my to be fair, I don't even think she knows what she wants or how she wants to be loved by someone as much as she wishes to love someone. So then we get to Sandy and JR, and they are getting very, very comfortable. He talks about how, you know, because he lost a bit basically, so he's starting to cook her a dinner. It looks like more of a rip away microwavable fucking plate, to be honest with you, is what he's got her. And he talks about how he's cooking a special meal for his baby. I was like, okay, man really said Zaina who and Nick who with that comment, but let's get going. He's got a taste of some forbidden fruit and now he's loving it. He's loving it. JR basically thinks about how the life he's creating right now with Sandy is magical, and he's definitely lost in the sauce. Basically, they do talk about wanting children, and he talks about that he would want children when he's about 40. I says, yeah, that's not a good enough time frame for Zaina at the end of the day, and it's also not a good enough time frame for most women because our clocks start ticking. So yes, you may well to be able to have children when he's ready, when he's 40 at the end of the day, but then he's also got to think of the age of his partner at that point in time, because don't forget, with women after the age of 35 we are seen as high risk pregnancies. So we'll see how it is. So they are chill with each other at the end of the day, as I see them with. Sandy is fully in her element. She talks about how she likes JR and JR likes her too. So they were eating dinner on the balcony, and JR then says, speaking of exes, and points out that Nick is literally down on the forecourt basically. So Sandy moved quickly indoors. JR basically was saying, I don't think he can see us. I says, no, my guy, no. Nick is a very calculated person, and he more than likely saw yous out on that balcony about to have dinner before he even set foot down in that courtyard. Basically, he knew exactly where JR and Sandy were situated in order for JR to be able to see him and say, oh, he's not even, no, he'd clocked them already, and he's doing it on purpose. He's literally doing it on purpose. He is not going to let Sandy have no peace in any way, shape or form, and he'll find ways in which to let her know that he's still there and he ain't going nowhere, and it's not right at the end of the day, and it's not fair. I was just thought it's no wonder why Sandy wouldn't marry him or open up to him. And I thought Sandy at this point needs to literally just trust her instincts about this man called Nick, because as I said before, his energy is way off for me. So Sandy again is upset that Vanessa left Nick by himself, and now she feels bad. I'm like, no, she shouldn't feel guilty about the situation at the end of the day, because let's not forget, Nick gave Sandy the ultimatum. Do you know what I mean? It's out of his control that this woman decided to up and leave, and it's out of Sandy's control. She needs to carry on and do what it is that she's doing at the end of the day. So then we go back to Nick, and he's decided to do a painting. He's now painting from a place of discomfort. For me, I think Nick was using this opportunity to capitalize on the disruption that he feels he's had, because he wants to share a narrative of himself, but then yet in the background he's full on harassing the hell out of Sandy. How does that make sense? We go back to Sandy and JR, and she's being a full-on housewife in terms of picking up his laundry, washing it for him while he sits and eats. I'm like, oh, the good life, isn't it? We skip to Aria and Caleb. They're sitting in the park together, and Caleb talks about how he does this thing called the shoulder count. So then I didn't know what it meant until he'd done it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of a cool move, because at the end of the day he managed to put his arm around Aria, and I thought, well, will you do that for real though? That's the thing. So you see Zaina and Scotty go on a basketball date. Zaina is good at basketball, let's just put it out there. So they make a bet basically that the person who makes a basket gets to ask the question. So basically Zaina asked Scotty, if there was one thing you could go back and change, what would it be? I just thought, here we go. And of course Scotty can't answer quickly and be done. No, this man had to go dig deep, and I was like, my guy must have this answer on a card. I mean, it did turn into his father teaching him a lesson in the responsibility of a man. And I'm like, my God, how could something so damn simple turn into a freaking 4-page letter, for fuck's sake? It was like fun nil, wind out of sails 1. Do you know what I mean? Seriously, I think Zainab just brought that up literally to have a little bit of fun, to spice up the game that they were playing. This man took it down another end of the trajectory. So the end of the story was, his dad said, I love you. He didn't say it back because he was mad at his dad. And then the next morning, sadly, unfortunately, his dad passed away, which is sad, don't get me wrong, yeah. And I was like, but do we have to be serious all the time? And Zaina's standing there listening to him intently. But I'm thinking, she's got to be thinking, what a way to lower the mood. Like, seriously, I was trying to have a little bit of Ross fun here, and you just literally took the fun out of the room and said, poof. Do you know what I mean? That's what I said. I'm sorry, I can't. I really can't with these two. Like, seriously can't. We keep going through, you see Aria and Kaylee together, they're having a nice night, looking at each other as a potential at the end of the day. You see Nick and Mariah in their own spaces, and then you see Sandy and JR go poolside. All I thought is, that was brazy, that was so brazy of them to do, because at the end of the day, all it would take was for Nick to look out from the balcony to see them at the pool or any of the others and decide to go down and join them, but hey ho. So JR has basically written these cards with questions on them, and I thought, okay, here comes the flirt. They do kind of get deep with the questions and answers, and Sandy talks about how the fact that she was cheated on before, but she would never do it, and JR basically said that it was a deal breaker for him. But Sandy surprisingly says, well, for her, if she was married, it wouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker. I was like, yeah, it should, either way, it should be a deal breaker. If you wouldn't accept it if you weren't married, why would you accept it if you were married? That does not make any sense at the end of the day. Yes, you don't want to end your marriage, but why would you accept that type of behaviour from somebody? It ain't right. So Sandy said that in her VC that she loves JR, and I was like, wait, what? You love this man? Okay. So they were hugging out by the pool. At first, for me, Sandy looked a little bit awkward because JR was blatantly looking like he wanted to kiss her and a little bit more, but she was moving back, so they go and sit down instead. So they're all over each other, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, okay. I was just like, so JR wants Sandy in his space all the time, and then they kiss, and I knew it was coming. And I just thought to myself, they are so leading down the path of no return right about now. Do you know what I mean? So JR basically said that he wants to feel connected, so the closest way that they have of feeling connected without having sex is through a kiss. And I'm like, but that's where it leads. That is where it leads to. So you see them go in the room, because they go back to the room, and you see Sandy laying like with her face down, no, laying on the bed. Her head is literally hanging over the edge of the bed, and JR is literally standing right next to her just before he shuts the door. I'm like, there's no way that them two didn't have sex or have some type of sexual intimacy within that. Let's just put it that way. There was something that went on, and that's where the episode ended. And as I said, I won't be able to do any more episodes for the next 2 weeks, but I will be back in quick succession with them once I do and get this whole episode finished for you all in regards to my view and my react and my breakdown. But I do thank you for hanging with me thus far, and I will speak to you all again soon. As I always ask before I go, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so I know I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share and do all the good things that you do, because I continue to be on the road to 1k. So peace out, my people.